Milan, Italy, a cold February night. The glow of blue lights bleeds across wet cobblestones as officers swarm an apartment block near Piazza Duomo. Upstairs, a phone vibrates. Once, twice, then goes still. Inside, an editor from Fanpage.it stares at the screen, his heart racing. Every message, every call, every conversation, all of it monitored. Someone whispers a name, Graphite. In newsrooms across Europe, journalists check their phones. Every notification feels like a threat. Somewhere between Tel Aviv and Washington, D.C., servers hum. Graphite spyware, a digital phantom, sliding silently into phones through invisible doors. A zero-click exploit. No links, no downloads, just one missed call, and your world becomes transparent. Tonight, 3 European journalists are realizing the same horror. Their private lives, their investigations, their sources, all compromised. And no one knows who authorized it. Was it a rogue government, a corporate client, or something far more coordinated? They call it surveillance technology, but for the people it watches, it feels like psychological warfare. Emails encrypted, phones tossed, editors whisper in stairwells. Who's really watching the watchers? Before the scandal broke, Graphite was just another ghost in the alphabet soup of private surveillance tech. The company behind it, Paragon Solutions, part Israeli, part American. Its founders were former cyber intelligence specialists trained in the same digital warfare units that created Pegasus, the spyware that shocked the world in 2021. But Paragon promised something different, a lawful alternative, cleaner, designed only for democratic governments to combat terrorism and organized crime. At tech expos and closed-door security conferences, their representatives wore crisp suits and confident smiles. Their brochures spoke of national defense and digital safety. No mention of journalists, no mention of press freedom. But surveillance tools are like loaded guns. They rarely stay pointed in one direction. Once exported, they follow the logic of power, not ethics. By 2025, Paragon's Graphite had slipped quietly into Europe's information bloodstream. In January, researchers at Citizen Lab, a cybersecurity watchdog based in Toronto, noticed a strange pattern. Encrypted data packets moving through iMessage systems. At first, they thought it was Pegasus again. But the signature was different. Leaner, newer, more sophisticated. 3 victims confirmed, all journalists. 2 editors from Fanpage.it, 1 reporter from an undisclosed European outlet. Their phones had been infiltrated, their location data mapped, their messages silently copied and forwarded. Every lead they followed, every confidential source they protected, someone else had been watching the entire time. Once Citizen Lab's report went public, a quiet panic rippled through Europe's media circles. Editors double-checked their devices. Reporters wiped their phones clean. Encrypted chats were abandoned for whispered conversations in cafes. The European Commission issued a statement of deep concern. Privacy watchdogs called it the new Pegasus. But in the corridors of power, something more telling happened. Silence. Governments that had once condemned MSO's spyware refused to name who was behind the Graphite infections. Italy's Interior Ministry declined comment. The French Cybersecurity Agency said it was assessing. Even Brussels, usually loud about digital rights, suddenly spoke in careful, measured tones. Behind the scenes, diplomats and intelligence liaisons met under the radar, trying to contain a scandal bleeding across borders. Because if a European government had authorized the use of graphite, then Europe's promise of protecting journalists had just imploded from within. The data logs showed something chilling. The infections didn't target random reporters. They targeted the ones working on sensitive stories: corruption, organized crime, political influence. One Fanpage.it editor later described the moment he realized he'd been hacked. "It felt like someone had entered my home and rearranged the furniture, but left everything looking normal. Every message, every draft, every contact, tracked, stored, invisible." Paranoia turned into routine. Phones were left outside meeting rooms. Journalists printed notes instead of typing. And each time a new story went live, the editors braced for impact, wondering who, this time, might be listening. Behind every infected device is a person, a heartbeat, a name. Giovanni Tizian sits hunched over his laptop in the newsroom of Fanpage.it. For more than a decade, he's investigated organized crime, tracing money, influence, and bloodlines from Calabria to Parliament. He has been threatened before. He knew how danger looked when it had a face. But this was different. This danger didn't knock on your door. It lived in your pocket. When Citizen Lab confirmed his phone had been infected, Giovanni said he felt naked, not just violated, he told reporters, but exposed in a way that changes how you think, how you write, how you even breathe around a story. Then there's Emiliano Fittipaldi, another Fanpage editor known for relentless investigations into Vatican finances and corporate corruption. When he learned that Graphite had burrowed into his phone, he felt anger. "They didn't just invade my privacy," he said. "They tried to make me doubt my own work." And that's the psychological cost of surveillance. Not fear, but doubt. A slow erosion of trust in the tools you rely on and in the world you report on. For journalists, each day became a balancing act between paranoia and duty. You start to notice everything. The lag in your messages, the echo in your calls, the stranger watching too long at the cafe. And you wonder, am I imagining it or am I being watched right now? Surveillance doesn't just record. It rewires how you live. It teaches you to censor yourself voluntarily. Somewhere in Brussels, a civil servant waits until the office empties. It's 11:47 p.m. He slides a USB drive into his laptop and opens a folder. Procurement 2023. Inside are contracts, invoices, emails, and one file that changes everything. Graphite, Partnership Implementation Notes Confidential. The document outlines a multi-state cooperation, not for cyber defense, but for information collection initiatives. Names appear in the metadata. Government ministries, telecom intermediaries, private contractors in Italy, Germany, and one line, Client D, marked as trusted security partner based outside the EU. No country code, no name. When the leak hit the encrypted inbox of a journalist at Le Monde, it sent shockwaves through every newsroom that had been targeted. It confirmed what many feared. Graphite wasn't a one-off abuse. It was part of a system, a collaboration between agencies sworn to protect citizens and a private company profiting from invading them. The memo detailed training programs, technical assistance, even cost-sharing models for license renewals. Each deployment signed off by officials, justified as necessary for national interest. National interest. That's the phrase they always use when power wants forgiveness before it's caught. The revelations forced a reckoning. European lawmakers demanded answers, the press held emergency conferences, Paragon Solutions went silent. But here's what no one expected. The spyware wasn't gone. Citizen Lab confirmed Graphite's infrastructure was still active on new servers in Eastern Europe, possibly leased by intermediaries. Same infection patterns, same signatures, and new victims, not just journalists, but lawyers, political advisors, human rights investigators. Then came the discovery that stopped everyone cold. Buried in the same leaked folder was a list: code names, timestamps, targets. And next to one of those names, a journalist from Fanpage.it, there was a chilling note: Priority Level 1. Do not disclose. Ongoing. That list vanished within 24 hours. The whistleblower disappeared. No trace, no statement. And just like that, the story fractured into silence again.
When the smoke cleared, what remained wasn't resolution. It was exhaustion. Governments promised reforms. Journalists rebuilt trust. But the shadow of Graphite, the quiet hum of invisible eyes, lingered in every newsroom, every phone, every unanswered question. For a brief moment, the world was watching. The headline screamed, "Spyware scandal rocks Europe." But headlines fade, attention shifts, and the people behind Graphite knew that. Their weapon wasn't just code, it was time. All they had to do was wait until the outrage cooled, because outrage, unlike surveillance, always expires. The same companies released statements of reform. They promised ethical AI, transparent consent, and human-centered innovation. But buried in the fine print, in a clause no one would read, was permission to collect behavioral metadata for system improvement. The cycle began again.
You might think this is history. It's not. It's already happening again, but smarter, quieter, and harder to detect. In 2024, the European Union discovered that social media algorithms had been intentionally tuned to polarize political groups before elections. Not for ideology, for engagement. In the US, the echoes of Cambridge Analytica evolved into something more sophisticated: emotion-based profiling systems that can predict your next decision before you even make it. In Asia, super app ecosystems combine payments, identity, messaging, and health data into one seamless web. Convenience so perfect, it erases the boundary between online and life. The irony, this new form of control doesn't look like tyranny. It looks like freedom. It looks like personalization. It looks like you reflected back perfectly through a glass screen. Meanwhile, deepfake technology is reshaping truth itself. AI-generated influencers already have millions of followers, digital ghosts built to sell you emotions. And while governments debate regulations, the data flow never stops. Because in this economy, data is not the new oil, it's the new oxygen. Invisible, essential, impossible to live without. What began as simple psychological manipulation has become a new architecture of reality, one where perception is programmable, where your mood, your vote, your trust can be engineered. So the question isn't who's watching anymore. It's who's writing the script of what we see. Maybe we are no longer the audience. We are the product, the experiment, and the performance all at once. They say power isn't taken, it's given. Every time we click accept, we hand over a piece of ourselves, not because we're forced to, but because it's convenient. Because in a world designed for speed, privacy feels like an inconvenience. We trade silence for stimulation, mystery for clarity, freedom for personalization. But what happens when the personalization becomes prediction, and prediction becomes control? Maybe this was never about data at all. Maybe it was about understanding human nature, our desire to be seen, to be known, to belong. And the systems learn that perfectly. They learn that we don't want truth, we want comfort, dressed as truth. But there's a quiet rebellion happening. Every person who disables tracking, every mind that questions what it consumes, every moment someone pauses before sharing, scrolling, or buying, that's resistance. Maybe we can't dismantle the system overnight, but we can remember what it means to be unpredictable, because unpredictability is the last real form of freedom. As you close this video, the algorithms will already start recalibrating, learning what kept you watching, what made you stay. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. If the system knows everything about me, do I still know who I am? Maybe this story made you pause. Good, because awareness, not outrage, is the first form of resistance. The next time you open your phone, ask yourself one question. Who benefits from what I believe right now? That single question can change how you see everything. If this story moved you, share it. Let someone else pause too. Because silence is what lets this system grow. But conversation, that's how it breaks. Leave a comment. Tell me, is privacy already gone, or do we still have time to take it back? And if you want more stories that peel back the hidden layers of power, technology, and control, subscribe. Not for me, but for the part of you that still wants to know the truth before it disappears, because the next story might already be about you.